Hello.
That sounded like you were in like a cave.
Me?
Oh,
No, Steve did. It had like all this reverberation.
oh, really? Is it bad now?
It's not bad. It just sounds like I don't know what the right word is. Like it
Oh.
has a lot of something in the background.
Huh.
Evening, Steve.
Hey, Matt. How you doing?
How's your day going? How's your day going?
It's okay. Thanks. How about you?
Busy. All right. Also, got some stuff done during work, so that's always good.
Good.
Hi, Daphne.
Hello, Matt. How are ya?
Doing well.
Good. Is Brian on?
Stuff done during work, so that's always good.
Good.
Hi, Daphne.
Hello, Matt. How are Steve must have the YouTube up.
Yeah, sorry. I meant to put myself on mute.
That's all right. You didn't know you were going to have to become a Zoom czar, did you? Now we can't hear you.
Oh, I was saying I didn't know I had to be a Zoom czar, but I am also not one. Not yet.
You're on your way.
Yes.
While we're waiting, Burl was on Zoom. Was it Zoom or Facebook Live event this morning, Burl.
Yeah, we were in Zoom, but it was live streamed on Facebook. Yeah.
It's a great session about what's going on with COVID and how the different governmental groups are working towards different aspects, and very fascinating.
Yeah, it was an interesting conversation. I know, Steve, you've gotten a chance to have both Dr. Roberts and Joe Mazzola and Alex Jones together at the same time, but it's interesting to hear them when they're together. Just the combined wealth of information that they have.
Right. Yeah, no, they've all been very helpful to us.
That's terrific. Okay, I think everybody is here. Shall we get started?
Sure.
So welcome to the July 14th Finance and Facilities Committee meeting held virtually. We have in attendance myself, Daphne Mooring, Brian Hairston, Matt Campbell, and Burl Piccolantonio as board members, and Steve Barrett and Mike Verlingo from our district office. So we have a full agenda. There are 7 items, and I'll turn it over to Treasurer Verlingo to cover. Well, you've got a lot of it. We'll start with the June financials.
Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen and then click on, I'm not sure if I open it first and then share, or let's see how this works.
I'm no help to you.
Oh, that's not good. No, that's phone version. Here we go. Can you see that?
No, I see you.
You see me. You don't see what's on my screen.
No. Do you have that green share screen in the bottom where you would mute and unmute?
Let me go back to.
So Mike, if you hit the share button.
Well, I kind of lost where here we go. Now I'm back to that. Okay, here we go. There I see the share.
Okay.
Okay, so after I hit
the share, then what you want to share should be in the box. So all you have to do is touch it with your cursor. Click on it.
Although I don't see them in the box. Say it open all at the top of my screen.
Okay. So let me try to do this, Mike. You want to share the complete financial packet?
Yes.
Okay. So let me try to open that up, and then I'll try to share my screen. Okay. And then you just tell me as you want me to scroll down. Can you guys see the monthly financial report? Okay.
Yes.
And I don't know, I had them open on my screen, so I don't understand why they weren't there when I clicked on it.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
Okay, sorry. Technologically challenged. Okay, so just to go through a couple of the reports in the, if you scroll through to the first operating summary page.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up the year over revenue from prior year by about 5.6 million, 5.7 million on the operational side. Again, as has been tracked all year, real estate taxes and TPP account for the bulk of the increase. You can see the state foundation revenue year over year was down 1.6 million. which is what the state cut in the last 2 months of the year. Other operational revenue was up. That's primarily due to TIF payments and received from the local jurisdictions. So again, overall, very good relative to prior year and pretty much on track if you look at where we were versus estimates. Slightly above 1.3% total. On the expense side, salaries again tracked about 3.1% over prior year due to increases and steps and that were anticipated in the forecast. Benefit costs also up for the year due to the change in the benefit plans, and that was anticipated. We still came in under forecast. On materials and supplies, it is down year over year, but it's partly due to an increase in the number of outstanding encumbrances where we did not actually make all the payments in the fiscal year, and those are kind of rolling over now in terms of the cash expenditure will occur in July. Capital outlay higher due to the acceleration of some notebooks, Chromebooks, and things related to the virtual learning environment that we accelerated in May and June in order to have that ready for this coming year and to handle what was happening with the COVID coronavirus crisis. There were some transfers and advances. We moved $1 million into the budget reserve. So if you look below, our ending cash ended up $12,063,000 in the general fund versus 9.7 last year, an increase of 2.3. Encumbrances were up, also due to some of those payments not occurring in the month of June. The budget reserve was increased to $2 million. So overall, an unreserved fund balance increase of $650,000. Nothing really out of the norm or significantly unusual versus what was expected for the year. Go to the next chart, Steve. We actually passed that. That was a system report on balances. So this is just a slightly different presentation, breaks out the results, which is kind of the model I would propose to use going forward, breaking out the local and state sources and receipts from operations, and then other receipts, transfers and advances below the line, and then compare that to prior year, as well as I'll be putting in estimates for each month. Starting in probably for the month of July, and forecast out where I would think we should be month to month. This would allow us to note any discrepancies versus trends that have occurred in prior years versus what's happening in the current year. Because many of the expenditures, not all, but many expenditures tend to be cyclical, and they tend to occur at the same time on a year-over-year basis. In terms of receipts of tax revenues typically occur July, August, January, February, where you see the bulk of the revenues coming in. Same thing on the expenditure side. Salaries and wages, benefits are fairly flat, but some of the other purchases and items can vary depending upon timing. So just to make it a little more in terms of understanding how we're trending versus where we did prior year and versus the estimates for the current year on a monthly basis. One good thing on this schedule, again, you can see that tax revenues were up. Dues and fees were down. We did refund a number of fees, and fees were lower because of the virus and being out of school for 3 months. Same thing with rental revenues, some miscellaneous receipts. Good thing is interest revenues we're still trending higher. So 76,000 increase from prior year. We do, at least currently, we do have a number of investments that are locked in terms of interest rates. And although rates have fallen significantly in the last few months, we still should be earning a fairly good return over the next 9 to 12 months. After that, it will tend to start dropping off more quickly. State Foundation, again, being down 1.6 million. The expectation in the forecast was that would be continued for the next 2 years based upon information we've received from the governor's office and statements that he has made, as well as the ODE. We expect that number will be consistent with what we forecasted. There will not be further reductions, but the 1.6 million reduction we did see will continue for the next couple of years, and we would lose another 3.2 million. But hope the state recovers more quickly, and then maybe we would see a benefit to the forecast going forward.
Mike, the governor did say at a press conference last week that they may, they were knowledgeable that the coronavirus was going to be very expensive for school districts, so they might find ways to not reduce as much. There's nothing set in stone, but it was good to hear him kind of allude to that a little bit. So we'll see. I think it's good that you have these in the forecast, but maybe there's some hope on the horizon that the cuts won't be as steep.
The next chart gives kind of a historical view on receipts and expenditures from local and state sources. As you can see, we've been trending from about 73% in 2016 up to 74.7 in 19. That jumped to about 78% in 2020 due to the cuts in state foundation revenue. Otherwise, those would have been more consistent, with roughly a 75-25 split between local and state funding. If you scroll down on the expenditure side, again, and cash balances, expenditures have been increasing. Well, they increased this prior year. Again, salaries and wages and benefits primarily drove the increase. But cash balance was higher, and we did end up with a surplus of $2.3 million, bringing the ending cash up to that $12,063,000. Excluding non-operational items, net cash flow was $3.2 million. I think you can skip that. That's a copy of the bank reconciliation. This is the current summary of investments between certificates of deposit. Again, many of them are yielding 2+%, some at 3%, and they are good for the next 1, 2, 3 years that we have those locked in. So on the certificate of deposit side, we'll be earning much better than market interest. In terms of the next category, which is government securities, agency bonds, those continue to get called as the call dates come up, because the government can call those and then reissue bonds at lower rates. So we will see a drop off in the interest rates on those. And then the third category, if you scroll down a little bit, Steve, is commercial paper. And these are bonds issued by highly rated companies where we need to invest on a short-term basis, or are allowed to invest on a short-term basis. And typically you get a higher yield, from those bonds with minimal credit risk. Steve, if you want to scroll through. And this is just a summary of our cash balances and in terms of what they're current or they mature in a future period. And the equivalent or average rate of return that we're getting in each category. So it's fairly, it's 22% current, 48% mature within 1 year. The bulk of that being the investment for the construction funds. Since that building, we should be completing it within the next 12 months or so. And we do have unrealized gains of $467,000 on the securities that we're holding today. I think that's all I was going to share on the financial side. Are there any questions on where we are? Or
I just have a quick, comment.
Okay.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
I just want to say I appreciate the approach of having, planning on hard times, especially when it comes to the state aid. Kind of hope for the best but plan for the worst kind of approach. I appreciate that we're kind of holding that line. As much as we want to have hope, a lot happens before we actually get through the budget process at the State House, and it can get really messy through that time.
Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah.
Mike, I just had a comment. I mean, I think we should be very thrilled that our operations came in at the numbers that we projected, right? I mean, I'm very excited, and the insurance committee and our employees should be commended for coming in $2 million lower in the the insurance costs than we had predicted.
That was about 1.2 million.
1.2?
Yes.
I thought it looks like we appropriated 22 million and we had a.
Yes, versus appropriations. Yes, we were that much under, but we, I'm sorry, how should I put it? The forecast had been adjusted in terms of what I forecasted the results to be versus what was in the appropriation amount. And the net was about 1.2 million underrun. We did have, as you recall, a deficit in the fund of the 400,000 that we had to advance to cover. And that was primarily due to the payoff of the debt that was needed to keep the fund solvent before we went to a fully insured plan.
Right, and that deficit was created because we had less employees in the plan paying back the debt service component. Is that correct?
Yes. So as far as the 5-year forecast is concerned, I do plan to do an update to that here in the near future. Since there were some variances between what was forecasted to end up the year, salaries did come in a couple $100,000 less because I had forecasted or estimated that we would see additional retirement expenditures that did not fully materialize. So that was primarily covered by the severance fund, where money is usually transferred in on an annual basis. So there was only an additional 20, 30,000 needed to cover that, as opposed to what I thought would be a higher amount, given the environment we're in, and maybe see some additional retirements. We have closed out the fiscal year on July 3rd. So we're now processing FY21 activity. The preliminary budgets are loaded into the system. There's still adjustments and tweaks that need to be made to get that fully in line with forecast. So we're working on that currently.
When you say you're going to update the forecast, you mean with ODE or?
I probably would not do it with ODE unless it was significant
Material? Okay.
material variance.
All right.
There may be some tweaks and, you know, pluses and minuses that will occur. You know, the net may be a small benefit to the forecast, but not enough to justify filing, you know, to update it with the state.
Gotcha. Any other comments or questions about June financials or full year? It's really the full year, fiscal year 20 is open season. If not, we'll move on to number 2. And that's the EVAS system.
Yeah, so the EVAS system, and if I can, let me see if I can.
Do you want me to pull something up, Mike?
I'm just trying to think if I share. Oh, here it is. I do have it here. Let me see if this works now. This is a little demo on kind of what the Bonefish system application does. There's an electronic vendor audit system and an electronic payroll audit system. I am proposing currently that we only adopt the vendor audit system for payments to outside vendors. I'm arranging a demo on the payroll system for them to come in and give me more information about it before I would adopt that. So if you want to just listen to this.
Oh, good. Is there supposed to be sound, Mike?
I'm sorry. Yes, you can't hear it.
No. So maybe just turn it up a little bit. There you go.
Can you hear it now?
I can't hear it. Oh, there now I can.
Okay, I'll just go back.
Okay.
I know I'm hearing impaired, but I don't hear it.
Yeah, it's barely audible.
All right.
We might be able to get the gist of it, Mike, by just watching it.
Okay.
Payroll audit systems, EVAS, are web-based applications that provide automation of compliance requirements, employee and vendor management, identification of manual errors, and potential fraudulent payments. Developed by experts at banking and forensic accounting.
Okay. All right, sorry you couldn't hear that. But basically the system is set to look for anomalies in payments. It gives you warnings. If payments are going to PO boxes, it looks for duplicate payments. It checks vendors against the state auditor website to make sure that they're not on the restricted list. It checks to see that the businesses you're dealing with are registered to do business. It's a great automated tool that allows you to go in and review payments before they are actually sent out the door. So as check runs are generated, they would be sent to me. I would scan through the list, look for any type of issues, problems. If I have questions about anything, I can click on it, go to the source documents. I could then either hold up a payment or just authorize them to be released. So I would work closely with accounts payable to, before anything is actually released out of our bank account, there would be approval from me that would be required. So
Mike,
the system before, and I think it's a great tool to use.
Excuse me, Mike. When you say it's going out and checking against registered vendors, is it only picking up, say, going over to like Secretary of State here in Ohio, or is it getting those companies that are in Delaware that are actually Delaware companies? So is it doing Ohio companies or is it doing all companies?
Well, it's checking against the Ohio database. If there's a company here that's on the auditor website that says, you can't pay this company, they owe school districts or the government money, technically you're not authorized to make a payment to them. So this checks against the database to make sure we're not bypassing and releasing funds to an entity that's unauthorized.
Mike, I have a question. I know that you're looking to convert your operating system. Would you wait to do this after that conversion?
We could, but it does work with USPS and USAS today, and it does work with the redesigned system. So it is an approved software that integrates with the old and the new software. So it wouldn't be necessary to hold it up, but that is something we can consider.
And it looks like the cost is about $2,700 for a 1-year contract.
If we did a 1 year, or we can do a 3 or 5, I was going to recommend 3 years, not to exceed the 10,000, which would be for both systems, but I would not necessarily adopt the payroll audit system at this time until I get more information and a demo. I know a couple of years ago when we looked at installing that in my prior district, there were issues with the speed and performance of their system, and it tended to hold up the payroll processing, and that was not acceptable. So they've told me that they've since worked out those issues and it's no longer a problem, but I'd like to see it.
Yeah. I think it's a great, from my banking years and cash management, we offered similar, not to the, proof. And I think it's an important step to take as being a responsible payor at this point. And it adds just a layer of work, but it also saves in the long run from a efficiency and dollars out the door. Hard to get back if they're not right.
It is true. Once they leave, they're hard to get back.
Yeah. Looks good to me. I just, are we going to have our technology expert make sure that the encryption and the security between their system and our system is tight?
Yeah,
I would do that.
That'd be great.
Okay, next item is Grady Enterprises Agreement. As you know, we've been using Grady for the last, I think it's about 2 years or a year and a half or so to assist with the management of benefit programs. This would be a 1-year extension to their current contract. We expend about $74,000 with Grady today to manage the system. Also, it includes ADA compliance and filing requirements, which are actually, that's kind of like a pass through because they use an outside vendor to do that work. And the service is based on like a per employee per month charge, which I talked to Mr. Grady today, and we're trying to determine what exactly the billing should be going forward because our enrollment is down a bit from when this was first done last year. So what I would like to do is negotiate the rate down a bit to what the current enrollment is, and that may save us a few dollars. So I'll be finalizing that with him tomorrow. So the actual amount of the service should go down between this year.
Hey, Mike, I got a question. As far as since we were on the thing with, I think 18 months to get back to January, how's that if come January we decide to be self-insured, and how does this fee come into play if we're switching back over?
So you think January of 21?
Yes.
Then I can add a caveat to the contract or a statement that if we were to, change back to a self-insured plan, we would still need help in terms of the overall management and facilitation of that plan. So it's not as though we bring it back in-house and then we manage all the enrollment and that type of thing. That was not done prior to Grady coming on board. And I would not expect that it would happen once, we were to convert back to a self-insured plan. I'm not certain that we would have the assets in January in order to be able to do that and go back to a self-insured plan at this point. That's yet to be determined.
Plus, with the current COVID situation, we should probably incorporate that into the thinking, right?
Sure.
Yes. There's been a lot of, let's say, healthcare expenditures that have been delayed due to COVID, because the hospitals were not necessarily accepting patients for any type of voluntary surgeries or, testing and things. That's loosened up. So we're going to start seeing an increase in the amount of cost because for the last few months, the actual cost in terms of people utilizing service has been down significantly. So we do expect that to ramp up again. And again, depending upon how many people become infected, if there are any kind of, I'm not sure what the cost is if you become hospitalized because of COVID. I'm sure it's probably significant.
Does anyone else have any comments on the Grady service contract?
I just want to say that Joe Grady has really helped us through a difficult time with our healthcare plan and our committee. And he's worked tirelessly to help us get on the right track. And so we really appreciate his work. And he's really helped our committee a great deal. He's trusted. So can't say enough about the work he's done with us.
I would agree with that. I've always found their firm to be very professional, very competent.
Super. Well, let's keep it going.
Okay. Next item is the K-12 forecast agreement. We've used K-12 for several years for the forecast model that they've created and helping districts and treasurers to create a model that is very robust, I would say. It's much more robust than the one I developed on my own previously. The cost of this is $7,500 for the fiscal year. It's the same price that we paid for this past fiscal year. I've had discussions with Mr. Moore about the service and, would there be potentially different levels of service depending upon the amount of work that we do versus what they do for us. And, that's something they may be looking at in the future. So we might be able to drive that cost down a bit depending upon how much we're willing to take on in terms of compiling the model ourselves. But I would recommend that we continue with the service. I think it is valuable.
I would concur. It's a very robust model with all the supporting spreadsheets that feed in and model. I think it's pretty incredible.
Next is the Kennedy Catrell Richards engagement letter. So again, we've used this firm at least prior to my tenure. I've never worked with them myself, but they have proposed, this is the third of a 3-year agreement. So it's the third year and the cost is $10,250 for them to compile our financial statements on a GAAP basis that we need for any filings, especially when we're going out for a bond issue. We do need GAAP statements to provide to the rating agencies and others who'd be interested in purchasing our bond. It's something that we can look at in the future if we want to go out to bid to different firms. But right now, I would say we should continue with them for the third year of the contract.
I agree. I do like the idea of doing a competitive bid. I think this has been the company that has been used since I joined the board. And I think we have to always be cognizant of what market is and is there another firm desirous of growing their book as well. So what would the best time of the year to do that sort of process be?
I would say starting in the late fall, January or so at the latest.
Okay. Should we put that on our to-do list?
We can.
How do other board members feel?
That makes sense to me. I keep forgetting to unmute myself.
Anyone else?
I agree with the idea of taking a look elsewhere, see what else is out there.
Same here.
Okay, great.
Okay.
We will go on our to-do list.
Forge ahead with that. Okay, next is the Community Reinvestment Act agreement, area agreement, I should say, with the city of Gahanna. They are proposing a 15-year, 100% tax abatement to a firm that is looking to build a new facility, 25,000 square foot building. And this would lead to the creation of 40 or so additional jobs in the area, of which we would share in the tax revenue. They are proposing that they will keep us whole in terms of any revenue loss to the district. So technically, we do not need to approve this since they are keeping it whole, but it is something just to make the board aware.
Hey, when you're talking about 40 employees, what is like the median salary? And what I mean, they're these high-end jobs or?
They've, sorry, hold on one second. I think the additional payroll was about $3 million.
Here, I can post it up here if you want, Mike. Do you want me to show it to?
Okay.
I think it's 4.2 million. Let me go back here.
Found it.
41 full-time employees, commits to 70 new FTEs with an associated payroll of 4.2 million.
Yeah, so 44 additional employees, I believe. Or is it 70? Current level of employment is 45. They're going to add 15 to 20 employees per year for 4.2 million in payroll.
Mm-hmm.
They're also, this is an expansion of a current company. So their current payroll is about 3 million. So they're more than, looks like in 5 years, they should have more than doubled their payroll, which is good for the city. But
Those bring in more tax revenue.
yeah. And ultimately, we will benefit from the increased property value.
Correct.
Any other questions on the CRA item? Okay.
Okay. And lastly is the resolution to proceed. That'll be on the agenda for Thursday evening. This is the last step prior to having the bond issue, PI levy, and operating levy being placed on the ballot. So once this is approved by the board, if you approve it to move forward to proceed, we would then take this to the Board of Election to have it certified, and it would then be placed on the November 3rd ballot.
And here's the resolution, which is on our board agenda Thursday night.
So basically, this just tells the Board of Elections that we've gone through the proper processes of getting the resolution passed at the board level and then having the auditor certify. And then is that right?
That would be correct. Yep.
So it talks in here about our first step, the resolution of necessity, and the other steps we took. And it just describes and it has actually the ballot language. So, and on Thursday, I can share this slide, which is now part of our presentation that we've done a few times. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Let me go back, sorry. So this is the 4.93 bond levy plus the 1.5 PI levy plus the operating. And this is the cost per month for a $100,000 house. And this is the annual cost. And that is the total millage. So we'll share that Thursday. We won't go through the whole presentation, but we'll share this Thursday night.
That's beautiful to see it all together in one place. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's pretty. So thank you to Judy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wonder why Burl didn't think I did that. So. So anyway.
The one item it does not capture is, as you know, the auditor certifies the valuation as it exists today.
Mm-hmm.
Those valuations will increase effective January of 2021. When those values increase, we will see a reduction in the millage. So that reduction is projected to be significant based upon the increase in value, which could be between 1.5 and 1.7 mils.
So it'll be under 10, right, Mike?
Correct. Yeah, something in the 9 to 9.2 range effective mills.
Yeah.
So it will be important after that happens to do a new slide and communicate to our public the change so that they know that their home may be valued higher, but this cost is going to be the same because the millage has gone down.
Yeah.
Right.
And we can project that out and maybe add a slide and just say that wouldn't happen until the assessed value changes, but we can actually add that, I think.
I think that makes sense because most people, you know, when you read, especially on social media, they're like, you know, my house has gone up, so they're getting more money anyway. Well, no, they're fixed dollar. And so every opportunity we have to educate about that concept, I think we should take advantage of.
Right. Okay.
All right. Well, we went through 7 items on the agenda and it is 7:16. If there is no additional comments to be made on agenda items, we can adjourn for the evening.
You know, not that we're competitive with our chairmanships of meetings, but I think that was faster than the policy meeting we've ever had.
Seriously, I'm impressed, Daphne. Good job. And Mike.
Mike, I was going to say,
I need to keep it concise.
We like it.
And speak fast.
We like it. It helps when operations go according to plan too. So financially, we don't have a lot of anomalies to talk about. So that's all good.
I wanted, you can't see him, but I wanted to thank Matt Blackwell, who is helping us with this meeting tonight. And he will be recommended on the board agenda to be our next technology director. So thanks so much, Matt. We appreciate you being there tonight and your help. And we'll be on our agenda on Thursday night.
Thank you. I don't know how you guys are putting those little clap hands on there, but it's adorable. Right, we will adjourn. Thank you all.
Thanks. See you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bring it out.